Okay, so first, because let's start quickly, to understand, uh, you know, uh, before we start with specific to SD, let's try to understand more about SAP and its background, and then we'll just get into the SD topics here. So first, you guys know what is SAP? You might be hearing it's one of the ERP softwares in the market. So any of you can tell me what is an ERP? What does ERP stands for?
Enterprise resource planning.
Right. So ERP is nothing but your enterprise resource planning. What does enterprise resource planning means? What is what is the motto of enterprise resource planning? Or what happens? Well, yes, the definition is enterprise resource planning, but what is an enterprise resource planning? Can maybe explain?
It's basically a tool to manage every department of an organization.
Right. So basically, enterprise resource planning. So here, the name itself says an enterprise. Enterprise is nothing but a big company who will be planning the resources. What is the resources? What are all the resources that you will have? So here,
Everything
let's
goes in a
yeah.
company. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, I will. Yes. As you mentioned, it's basically first we'll just break down. What is an enterprise? Enterprise is nothing but a big organization or a big company, right? Section or a big company. And what is resources? Examples of resources? Any one of you? Okay. I'll explain. So resources is nothing but you will have, what are all the resources that you will have? You will have money. So a money is something that will be controlled by finance department, right? So you have some money to control. These are all the kind of resources. Then you will have something called men, money, men. Then you have marketing machines and all, we'll just go like men. So men is controlled by human resources department. Then you have something like materials in a company. So this will be done by either purchasing or stores departments. Then you have machines, which is again by the production department. Then you will have some sort of methods. So then you will have some sort of let's say marketing, which is again by the sales department. Then you have management. So these are all the these M's that you call them. These are all the different kind of resources that you will have, a big company managing its resources. Resources can be anything anything like related to the money, men, material, machines, methods, marketing and management. So they need to manage different resources. Here, to manage different things, you need different departments. You have finance department that gets involved, you have HR department, you have purchasing department, you have sales department. You have all these departments that are getting involved. So here, basically ERP stands for enterprise resource planning. So the motto of ERP is mainly the planning of these resources in an organization in an effective manner in order to increase the productivity and decrease the cost. So this is the main motto of an ERP. So why companies need ERP system is basically how do you get an integration between all these departments together in order to increase your productivity. The end of the day, the aim of any enterprise or any big company is how do we reduce the cost, how do we increase the profits, how do we increase our productivity. This is a kind of a motto that everyone will have, right? So productivity productivity has to be increased. In terms of men, HR will see, okay, how can we increase the productivity of the people? Then in terms of machines, they'll say, how can we improve the productivity of our material? Like, the same way, how can we reduce the cost is what the finance department will say, and how can we increase our, let's say, how can we increase our profits? So efficiency, kind of, what kind of methods and the techniques that we can use in order to increase our efficiency in our work, and how can we reduce any of the footfalls that we will have in terms of managing the resources. So this is what an enterprise resource planning means. The big organization managing its resources, okay, with the help of the planning in order to reduce the cost and to increase the productivity and the profits, kind of a thing. Clear so far what is an enterprise and what is what are resources? Any one of you have any questions? Okay.
No, then.
So, okay. So now what are the characteristics of an enterprise resource planning? In generally, every resource planning in generally, like, there are characteristics of an ERP system. So what are the characteristics of an ERP system? So in generally, the ERP system will be a single, generally, like, this on a high level, but when we go into the deeper details, there will be kind of, again, there will be a lot of changes that would be coming in. So it will be a single uniform system across enterprise, but ideally now, in the real system, there can be multiple ERP systems that they handle, and there are multiple ways, because of some, we will again discuss when we discuss during the project and all, but in generally, the characteristics of an ERP system will be, it's kind of a single uniform system across the enterprise, means across the organization. Okay, so in generally, the characteristics will be, as of now, we can just see, and it is very much integrated system. Means every department can be integrated so much with other systems, or you can talk with other systems much more easily. You can get the data, you can you can get the data is much more easier way compared to the if you just maintain any other than an ERP system. And you can have usage of multiple currencies and let's say languages. So you can have many currencies and many languages that you can use. Then we will it's based on the client server architect. I'll again explain you what is a client server architect and all. We'll just discuss about it, but I'll just, as of now, I'll just give it is based on a client server architect. uh, Guys, just give me 1 minute. Sorry, there was kind of a disturbance from my side on the background, so I just wanted to mute so that there's no noise. Okay, so these will be generally the characteristics of an ERP system that you will have. Okay, and in the market, uh, we have many ERP systems. It's not just one ERP system that we have. We have many ERP systems in the market. Okay, and we will just see, for example, the list of ERP systems that are available. So when we talk about a list of ERP systems, or the kind of ERP vendors that are available, or the competitors that we have, like, SAP is one of the ERP system that you have. It's not the only ERP. You have many ERP systems. Then you have Oracle. Then you have PeopleSoft. Just example. Then you have JD Edwards. Then you have some Microsoft. Microsoft has their own let's ERP system. So let's take one of the examples that we have. So so you have many ERP systems in the market, but what is that makes SAP a special? Because the SAP captures, let's say, uh, from the maybe just don't get with the exact stats that I say, but it's around 60 to 70% of the ERP market is captured by SAP. And in some cases, in many of the companies in US, in the enterprise, the 90% of the people will actually use SAP as their main core ERP system. So what makes SAP so special in terms of in terms of having it like say like as one of the tough competitors, and what is that it is making a market leader, is basically the main advantage it comes as an integration point. So let's say Oracle is kind of very strong in terms of finance and in terms of maybe transportation. So they have a good system, and PeopleSoft is very strong in terms of HR. So you will have, let's say, some Salesforce, which is it can be very strong in terms of CRM based applications. So you have actually, some companies that are kind of very strong in certain areas of let's say they're kind of very strong in certain areas. For example, again, uh, let's say JD Edwards and all would be maybe again it is also famous in terms of I think something related to finance only. It is also not any other department that it is very famous for. So you have multiple vendors who are strong in certain areas, but the strong point that comes for SAP is it is very strong in finance, it is very strong in sales, it is very strong in procurement, it is very strong in terms of production, it is very strong in terms of okay, CRM and all. It's not there is a CRM application that we have in SAP, but I won't say SAP is very strong in the CRM area. But the other areas that you will have, it's kind of pretty strong. So this is what SAP gets an advantage over the other vendors in terms of its usability and in terms of its integration with different modules that are available in the market, that are available. So in generally, you will have only some ERP vendors that are available in the market are specialist in certain areas, but the main advantage that comes for an SAP is strong in terms of integration with multiple modules that are available in the market. So that makes an SAP one of the strong leaders that are there in the market. Clear?
Yes, Ganesh.
Yeah. So this is about the SAP in one of the ERP software. And another point I would like to mention, just a quick introduction. So SAP has actually been started by it's actually, you all know it's actually a German-based company. So actually it started by 5 IBM employees who used to work for IBM, and in 1975 is what they have started a company called SAP. They have started with something called an R1 that they started. So I will what is R1, what is R2, all this I'll just explain so later. So SAP initially started in 1975 with an SAP product called an SAP R1. Then in 1979 they came up. Sorry, my keypad has some issue. 1979 they came up with SAP R2, and in 1992 they came up with SAP R3, and it's been running for long. Then SAP R3 in around some 2002 they call it as SAP ERP. It is still based on R3 architecture that you have. Then around 2015 they started with SAP S4 HANA. So SAP S/4HANA. So these are all the different products that are available in the market. As of now, SAP supports, there is no R1, R2, and SAP ERP is also based on R3 architecture. So SAP supports this SAP S/4HANA and SAP ERP. So here in the SAP S/4HANA, you have SAP S/4HANA on-premise and you have SAP S/4HANA cloud-based editions. So these are all the two different, let's say, cloud-based and also on the on-premise that you call, that are available on the SAP S/4HANA. But rest everything, the current, that what we will be looking is on an R3 system, which will be an SAP ERP system, is what we will be learning, not an S/4HANA. So here it's an SAP ERP. So SAP has, no, this is not a, here SAP ERP or SAP R3 was a successor of R1. It replaces R2, then R2 replaces R3 and all. But S/4HANA and SAP ECC or ERP, or we call it SAP ECC to be more, uh, just to have a right naming convention. Both are two different products. Both are two different products that we will be having, and in order, like, there are only some sort of a differences that you have in an S/4HANA, because it's again a new system that it has, but the business functionality will still remain same from an SAP ECC and SAP S/4HANA. So what we will be learning as part of this course is an SAP ECC. Okay, so we will be learning the different processes that are there in SAP, the what is SAP ECC system, like, from an SD point of view, what are all kind of data that you have. So business process, we will be learning the SD business process, along with the kind of the real-time examples that you will get in terms of how do you have to handle the projects, and knowledge on all the different areas of the SD that we will be covering as part of this course, which is again based on SAP ECC, is what you will be learning. Okay, but SAP ECC or SAP S/4HANA, it's again the business process wise, there is no much change. Technically, yes, there are some changes, but again, it's just that additional things that you will be knowing, but there is no big change in terms of business process that you will be learning in the SAP ECC. Clear so far? Okay, now in terms of SAP, as we were talking, we have multiple departments. So we will just say what are all the kind of modules that we have in SAP. Okay, we will just talk about SAP modules. Guys, if you have any questions, no, just feel free to ask me, interrupt. We don't need to even just wait for until certain time. But if in case, because something that you need to get clarified, if you think it cannot hold at the to the end of the time, might be because let's say you may forget it, but feel free to ask me, no problem, because we are going slowly, because it's important for you to understand a high level overview and the high level understanding, so that if you can understand these terminologies, what is ERP, what is an SAP and background, then it will be easy for you when we actually go into the process as well. Clear?
Okay, sir.
And yeah, so today as of now, like again, tomorrow we'll see kind of different slides and all that we will have, I mean, in the next session on the more specific to SD. But as of now, you need to understand a generic understanding first before we start specific to SD. So that's the reason why I'm trying to explain the other details that we have here. Okay, so now in terms of SAP modules, so SAP, as I mentioned, so it's a big enterprise that are managing different resources, not just one resource. Like resources I mentioned, money, men, material, machine, methods, marketing, management, all these M's that you have are kind of different resources that you will have. So SAP modules, again, you have multiple SAP modules. What are all the kind of SAP modules that you have in SAP? Like, we will see the base modules that are there. We won't get into all the modules, but for you to understand. So we have something called FICO. Like, FICO, because in generally, from the, let's say, from the management point of view, what is the most important and critical module that they will have is a FICO. FICO is nothing but finance and controlling. So FICO is nothing but your finance and controlling. So it's basically they are the ones who deals with kind of accounts, with kind of reports, mainly the management, how they require profit, loss, and everything. Like what is the cost of the company, like how much profit we made. Again, to make the payments, to receive the payments, to make the payments in terms like in terms of like when we have vendors, when there are some purchase orders and all, to make a payments to your vendors, and also to receive the payments from the customers. So anything related to the money, the FICO department would be actually mainly responsible, to post to certain GL accounts to understand. So like whenever a company announces whether it made a profit or it made this quarter, how much profit they made, what is their like how is that how did they run in this quarter or throughout this year, how will they get all these reports, is based on the reports that are based on the finance and controlling. So they will be responsible for all the the money related stuff, I would say, or mainly the finance related stuff to, because it's all new terms for you. I'm not trying to put into the a big terminology. I want you to understand in a basic level now, so that it will be easy for you when we later on, when we just actually talk about the different terms that we have. So I'm trying to explain in as much simpler terms as possible, so that it would be easy for you to catch up. So finance department will be there. So this is one of the module that we have in SAP. Then we have SAP material management. So what does material management do? Material management, in generally, they are responsible for the procurement process. Procurement process means, now you have a requirement in a company. So you are a company. So now you wanted to procure some goods from a vendor. Like, you're a manufacturing company. You need your raw materials to make your own product. So you need to procure them. So you need to negotiate how much will you, like, how much is your, how much he will be selling for you. What's the cost? Like, like to maintain, to negotiate with that particular vendors. Okay, he will say some rupees, then you will negotiate some terms with that particular vendors. No, can you give it at this different price? They will get quotations from multiple vendors, and they maintain those quotations, and they create some purchase orders, then they receive the goods and they maintain in the stock. All these kind of receivables, you call it, like, if you imagine yourself as a company, uh, if you can just imagine yourself as a company, all the front end, like, in order to get the stock in your company, is what will be handled by the material management team. So material management team will be mainly responsible for the procurement of raw materials or the services or some products, from the let's say from the external vendor, or maybe from an internal plant as well. That's again, it's part of an maybe, because we will also talk about, we have some topics that we will be talking about where we have an integration between SD and we have a lot of topics where we integrate with for in terms of, we will discuss about some topics. We have something called a stock transport order. We have something called third party process, where we would need to learn about as well. So in as a part of this course, we will also cover some part of an how is their enterprise structure, what all the kind of different things that they would have. So you will also have a fair bit of knowledge on the business process as well. Even with finance also, so you will also learn certain aspects where we have an integration with the FICO as well. Where do the FICO comes into picture in terms of SD? So all this as well we'll learn during the course, because accounts, because all these modules whatever we will be discussing are all integrated modules, which means they are not standalone. So every module will have an integration with another module in terms of in terms of like some of the touch points that we will have. Then our okay, we did not even talk about our own module, which is our SD, which is nothing but sales and distribution. So what is sales and distribution? So sales and distribution, the name itself says we are talking about sales part, which means our, like, whenever a customer approaches us, so, like, whenever there's a customer who approaches us, then we will have to, like, he will come and inquire. So we'll have to create something called an inquiry document. then there is a quotation, there's sales order, the delivery, anything that related to the with the customer. So anything that that we will be providing to a customer is what the sales department would handle. Maybe like sales orders, outbound deliveries, invoices, all this, something like that we will be doing as part of SD. After this, maybe I'll quickly show a difference between and SD, because and SD will act in exactly in the same way and opposite to each other. So maybe then you will understand, a quick understanding about an SD and an because they both have the same kind of steps, but they're exactly opposite to each other, SD and So I'll maybe just explain in post this a quick idea about SD and so that you will have what will a sales department do, what will an material management department do. Okay, maybe post which we'll say. So these three are called the core modules. These are the core modules that are there in SAP, which means with there is no business, there is no enterprise that could run without an SD, without and without FICO. Without these three departments, the business process will not run, because these are called the core modules. That's it. Because there is no business if there is no sales, there is no business if there is no procurement, there is no business, there is no finance. So these three are called the core business modules that we have in SAP. Apart from this, we have and all these are called functional modules. Okay, I'll explain that. So we call them as functional modules because we are all functional consultants. We are all called functional consultants. Okay, modules. So maybe I would just functional modules that I'm just calling functional modules. Apart from this, so we have, let's say, other modules like production planning. Yeah, production planning. So who mainly deals with the they mainly deals with the production part of it. This will be coming to the picture only if in case you have, let's say, production in your company. If in case you don't have any production details itself, you may be you may not need the full PP module. You may need only some part of PP to handle MRP and so on and so forth. We'll talk about them. But if in case your company is a trading company like an Amazon, not Amazon is not a right example because they have their own production department as well. Let's say Alibaba. So Alibaba does not produce anything. They don't have any manufacturing. They only deal with the trading goods that they have. So for them, if in case they are using SAP system, they don't need this particular module called the PP module that they will have. Then apart from this, we have something called QM, quality management. If in case you don't have any quality checks or that are required, then maybe you don't need this module. Then you have PM, plant maintenance. Then you have PS, project systems. Then you will have WM, warehouse management. So these are all different functional modules that you have, but they're not like the core modules. It depends upon the business process that they have. So they will be they'll be using in the company. But these are all the functional modules, but they are not core modules like FICO, or SD. But they're all the functional modules that are there. So these are some of the examples that I'm giving in terms of functional modules that we have. So functional modules are nothing but we are mainly okay, I'll again explain what is the role of a functional consultant or what is the role of a technical consultant and so on and so forth later. So just imagine, so we are all called functional consultants who are mainly responsible for the design of a system, for the design of a particular process that they will be there. Apart from this, we have actually technical modules as well. modules. So basically we have something called ABAP. Then we have something called basis. Okay, ABAP and basis, these are all two different technical modules that we have. So basis and ABAP, so both are kind of technical modules only. ABAP mainly deals with programming and basis mainly deals with system system administration process. So what does ABAP do? ABAP, they are basically they are they are responsible in terms, let's say SAP would have provided some standard solutions, in SAP already SAP would be providing, okay, some based on the overall market scenario, they will be providing the scenarios for you. So in all the functional modules that they have, so it's all how you set up your system. So already there are things available in SAP according to the client requirement. Functional team will design the process. They will design the process. Okay, this is a process that needs to happen. Okay, this is how we need to set up a system. We'll talk in detail about it, but as of now, just understand. So we will design a particular process. During the design, we understand, okay, there is a particular business process that the client has, but that cannot be achieved in SAP because SAP does not have a standard solution. With the software that they have provided, with with our role that we are doing, so we come to know that, okay, we are not able to achieve certain process. So then what we'll have to do if we don't have achieved certain process, but the client needs that requirement, saying that, I need that particular process because that is how my business runs, is what the client says. Then you will take help of an ABAPer to do. So instead of standard, you call it as a custom coding, which means specific to that particular client. So there will be some processes with the help of ABAP, you will get them implemented. There can be some sort of reports, it can be some sort of enhancements, it can be some sort of forms. A simple example is, every, whenever there is a billing document that gets generated, every client will have his own requirement to have his own logo. So SAP, when they design their software, they can't do any form for any specific client, because uh, your customers, let's say you have different customers, Walmart, Big Bazaar, or more. So you're a company where you supply, where all these big brands are your customers. So whenever you wanted to put your logo in your output, then it's specific to our company, to put our logo. So whenever they generate an invoice, they also put their own logo. So it can be changing. So in terms of billing, the form, the logos and all would be kind of specific to a particular client. So we will have our own logos, our vendors will have our own logos, our customers will have our own logos when they generate invoice and all. So that is a legal requirement to have our logo, the right logo on the invoice document. So how do you achieve? So you need a specific, ABAPer with the help of a programming. So you will develop a form, and you will just create to that particular client. So these client specific requirements you will achieve with the help of this technical module called ABAP. Clear? Then we have another module called Basis, who mainly deals with the authorization, system administration, then who should have what roles. For example, we are the sales department. Let's say we are from an IT department, but forget about it. Just imagine, let's say we are the sales guys. We should not have any authorization to check any of the finance reports. So we should be restricted only for the sales transaction codes. And let's say there are some other people, people, they should not have access to our sales department. So it's only they are responsible for the procurement, or the finance should not have access to our sales department reports. So how will we control them? So we should have control with certain roles. We should control, okay, who should get access, who should not get access. And uh, system upgrades. Now, there will be a new version that SAP releases, so you need to upgrade the system. So they will upgrade, the upgrading of the system, like you have your softwares that you get updated in the mobile, right? Same way SAP also releases certain bugs that comes into, they will be keep on releasing, resolving certain bugs and all in the software. So there has to be a department who should, upgrade in such a way that there is no impact on the current business process. What if in case there's an upgrade happened and the system just stops working? So or like to make sure that there is no impact and who should have this authorization, who should be limited, what are all the different roles. So all these system related administrative activities and upgradation activities, all this will be controlled by this department, a team called a basis team. So they are the technical teams that are there. Okay, so in the SAP you have to remember, for a functional consultant we will not have any role in terms of doing any of your programming or your let's say coding and all. So coding and all is part of ABAP, and again system administration and all is part of basis. So you are a functional consultant, you are responsible for the functional role. So functional role involves discussing with the business, understanding the requirements, and designing a system and providing a solution, then testing, and again coordinating with the ABAP consultants, coordinating with your business consultants and your basis. So you are responsible for the end-to-end solution, uh, from taking a requirement to the deployment. So everything you will be responsible, but not the coding and all. So you need to coordinate with them and get it done as per the requirement. So you need to take a requirement from the business, understand it, design it, then tell the ABAP team. So they do what you say, then you test it, then you, with the help of basis, you again deploy it in the production. And also that will be your kind of role that you will have as a functional consultant. So you are responsible in your functional consultant, you are responsible for a module called an SD module. The same way MM will have, MM module will have their own consultants, FICO will have their own consultants, PP will have, again depends upon the modules that are implemented by the client, they have their own consultants. So you all work together in order to achieve some target and deploy it to the production system. Clear so far on different modules that we are just talking here? Any
Yes,
questions so far
No, Dinesh.
for everyone? For all it's clear? If you have some
yes,
questions,
no,
please ask. It's
We are
clear, right?
clear, sir.
Okay, very good. So this is the functional modules that we will have. So then we can also talk about certain, okay. Now what I do is, I'll not talk about, there are some other processes as well. We will talk into the details like system landscape and all in the coming session. Then we'll also talk about what is an R1, R2, R3 also in the coming session. As of now, it's not very much keen to important, but but yes, they are important, but not for this session. So we will just talk about in detail later. So now what I will do is, I will just, for you to start with an SD process, I will kind of quickly give how an SD flow comes. And again, in tomorrow I'll have also a presentation with me, like we can just check. But as of now, let's just understand the different flows that we will have in terms of SD. And also I'll give a comparison with an MM module so that it will be easy for you to understand, like to understand the both the different processes and the what you will have in terms of let's say the business process, or how the flow goes, mainly the purchasing flow and the sales flow. So let's say, always whenever we are discussing, when we go through this particular course, right, whenever we are discussing more about the course, what you'll have to understand is, you'll have to always imagine yourself as a company or an individual. So you whenever we discuss anything, it will be like, you as a company is what we'll be discussing. So whenever I say we, it's not an individual. So we are a company who are implementing an SAP system, or you're a company you are implementing an SAP system. Then you have these different departments. Then you need to you need to again, if you imagine in that way, it would be much more easier for you. So company is not separate. So you are a company. You as an individual, you imagine yourself as a company, then you have a sales department or purchasing department, what it will happen. So that's how you need to imagine for you to understand it in a better way. So let's first just start with the first one. Let's say we are the company that we have. We are the company that we have, and we are implementing SAP, and we are responsible for the SD, let's say. Now what happens, like, from an SD point of view, when you're a company, let's say, from an SD point of view, let's say, what's the first thing that happens? Just imagine, uh, let's say you are okay, you are a customer. You want to buy a car. You want to buy a car. Okay, so you are a customer, you want to buy a car. So what is the first step that you guys do? What is the first step that you will do?
Inquiry.
Correct. So you go and inquire the goods. So acquire the goods. So for means, like, now what I will do is, just this is not just to understand, to overall understand between MM and SD. I'll try to cover two different parts, MM and SD, but we will be focusing on SD, but just for you to understand the difference. So you have a requirement to buy a car. Okay, which means that is your requirement. So in an MM, so from an MM point of view, so requirement is nothing but your requirements gets converted into a purchase requisition. Requisition is nothing but, we call it purchase requisition, so which is nothing but, that is your requirement. So I need this, like, this much with so and so quantity. So I need okay, a car which is blue in color with certain let's say 1600 cc or something like that. So that is your requirement. So uh, so for you, from an point of view, you will go to a vendor. You will go to a vendor, just understand. So from an point of view, there is a vendor. So there are multiple vendors in the market. You have a requirement, you go to different departments. For example, you go to, if I have a requirement to buy a car, you go to Mahindra, you go to Volkswagen, or you go to Honda or a Hyundai, or any company that you go, and you take, you inquire about your requirement. You will say, okay boss, I have a requirement of so and so, what do you have? So and that time, whenever, for example, whenever there's a requirement, whenever a customer comes to you, so from an individual point of view, from your point of view, you have a requirement, you're going to, like, you're going to a vendor. Vendor is the one who supplies you the goods. But from a vendor point of view, it's a sales for him. So from his point of view, he's your customer. So let's say, if we are a company, there is a vendor who comes, there is a customer who comes with a requirement saying that, boss, I want this car. So what you do in our system, okay, there is a person who came, he is inquiring. So he's forget about the spellings, we'll see. So he's inquiring, okay, I need this with certain cc, with a sedan or a hatchback, or an SUV, whatever is it. He comes back and say, I have an inquiry. So he comes and inquires about a particular product. Then what you do, what you do is, you give him back, based on an inquiry, you give him back, okay, this is what you need, I give you a quotation. So you give back a quotation, right, saying that, okay boss, okay, for this quantity, if you buy this product between these dates, from this date to this date, we are running an offer, so you'll have some 5% additional discount if it's beyond this date. So quotation will have a validity dates, saying that, okay, this is the price that I give you, but this price is only valid when you buy between this date and this date. From today to the end of month, if you buy, then this offer applies, or else the price will be different. So you, in the quotation, what you give him about the price and the validity details of a particular thing. So that is what you give it as a quotation. From his point of view, there's a requirement called a purchase requisition. Then there will be, he will request for quotation. It's called RFQ. He'll request for quotation, then you give back the quotation, then he maintain the quotation. This part you don't need to know, but just to understand, I'm just saying. So you maintain the quotations here. Then sorry. So from an department point of view, they maintain some quotations. And 1 second, guys, my mouse is getting stuck. Okay, so they maintain the quotations, And once they maintain the quotations, what the customer, from your point of view, is the customer, you gave the quotation, then you will say, okay, maybe this customer looks to be like, he will be buying with us and everything. So you maintain your quotations. I mean, the customer will maintain his quotations, then he will compare his quotations, because he will have quotations from different vendors like us. So he will reach out to us, he will reach out to some other company, he will reach out to third company, fourth company, and all. He compare the quotations, then he decides, okay, our quotation is good, then he creates a purchase order. So when he creates a purchase order, we create a sales order, right? We create a sales order against the quotation, we create a sales order. Now we gave a quotation, now he placed an order with us saying that, okay, uh, uh, he placed an order with us. So one second, guys. Cashier written order. Okay. So he places in they create a purchase order and we create a sales order against our system. So once we create a sales order, in our sales order we will say, okay, I will deliver on this date and everything, like, there's a sales order that gets generated. Then you do an outbound delivery. So we do an outbound delivery, and they do, let's say, an inbound delivery and goods received. Receipt. So you do an outbound delivery. Then you generate an invoice for him, invoice or billing document. Then they create an incoming invoice, we call it. Then you follow up for the payment. You follow up for the payment from the finance department. They follow up and they make. What's happening, guys? So they make a payment, payables, accounts payables, and for you, accounts receivables. So you receive the payment, accounts receivables. So they make a payment and you receive the payment. So here it's actually like, from, let's say, if you imagine your cycle from a customer point of view, then it becomes an SD. If you imagine from an like a vendor point of view, it becomes an MM. So in our company we will have an SD and MM, both the processes that would be there. But it's again like, our with our vendors we do an MM process, with our customers we do an SD process. So SD and MM will go actually opposite to each other. So when there is when the request for a quotation, you have a quotation. When there is a sales order, then then when there's a purchase order, there'll be a sales order. Like this, they go opposite to each other. That they will be there in SD and MM. But we will be mainly dealing with our customer point of view. From our customer point of view, so AR is not part of SD. It's part of finance. It's part of finance that they will have. But your basic business process that goes in an SD will be, inquire, whenever there's a customer who comes with an inquiry, you create an inquiry document. Against the inquiry document, we will create a quotation and give the quotation to the customer. Then he will place an order with us. We'll create a sales order. Once the sales order is created, then you have an outbound delivery that gets created. Against an outbound delivery, there'll be an invoice that we generate. Then the finance department will take the payments from the customer. This is how the cycle of an SD goes. Clear so far?
Yes, Dinesh.
Okay. This is a basic SD cycle, like, the sales cycle that we will have. But again, inside there are a lot of different business processes that would be there. There's a lot of it's not just, but this is the base of it, everything that falls under this. But you have multiple processes that would be there. So in tomorrow's session, we will see what are all the processes that we cover in an SD, and what are all that we have in an SD point of view, what is that that you will have in an SD module, what is that you will be learning here, how you will be learning, and in much more in detail, I'll try to explain in tomorrow's session. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. And again, yeah, so that's an update. So yeah, okay, we'll discuss anything later. But any questions so far? You guys have any questions or anything that you wanted to discuss, or any open points that you have?
Dinesh, I have a question. So, the approach to training, will it be like on the I mean, on the objective of helping us with the certification, or is just going to be plain training?
See, uh, it's like anything that you need in terms of certification, you can reach out. The objective of this training would be to cover all the business processes in SD. So it's not, the objective of this training is not just to get certified, it's for you to have a real-time experience that you could just work on the system. The moment you have after this you go back, so all the business process that you have, all the kind of scenarios that you face. So it's basically like how you can handle, how you can work immediately, or clearing your interviews or knowing whatever it is, the objective is to cover all the business processes related to the SD module. So here always remember, certification is basically kind of, it will have some sort of basic things. Certification will actually do not yes, certification, yes, it has it just the tweaking the questions and all, but it's basically understanding the entire process that you have. But if you have kind of a more experience of kind of like say a real-time working scenario that you will be experiencing in terms of a training, then certification will be just a small part of what will be just covering it. And I'll give you kind of a questions, kind of interview scenarios and everything during the project phase, because the idea is to cover like initially all the process that we have. Let's say in generally I aim an SD course of around some 30 hours for to cover all the topics. Then additional some 10 hours or 10 to 15 hours in terms of to cover a project specific, like a real-time experience and kind of a question Q&As, the kind of questions that you will be just going through, or kind of knowledge testing. So we will be covering all this part. So once you are through this, so I think certification would be just again a kind of a step that you could take additionally. But it's just that you would have already covered everything, so you may have to just revise specific to the questions, because we'll also covering some questions, the real-time questions from an interview point of view, how they ask, how do you handle, and all that we will be covering it here. So it's just that maybe like more specific, because certification has some weightages as well. So because I can explain how do you go through certifications as well, if you want to make a certification, we can just go through it. But our focus is mainly more to have for you a real-time experience, kind of you're already ready to work on all the concepts, if you just put in. Because in generally, let's say a person who will be working for say on an SD module from the past 4 years or 5 years may not get in the full experience to work on all the different areas of SD, and they will not have a knowledge like let's say some 3-4 years. But here you will get that knowledge to understand those processes, to learn those just in a matter of a month. So that is a kind of an approach that we will be taking here, you know to train you. But if you want to do any certification, if you have some questions, yes, if you want any additional help, we are there to help you out. But the main agenda is to make you more of understanding the real business process, and to understand all the concepts in SD. That's the main approach that would be the focus.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, guys? And anything else that you have? Hello.
Guys, do you all have any questions concerning timings? This is okay.
And just wanted to again let you know, I will have on a weekday training, I will have a strict 1 hour stop, because I have other commitments. It will be very difficult more than an hour. I cannot commit more than an hour on the weekdays. Just to make it very clear, beginning itself.
Yeah, sure. Pratik, Sandeep, timing.
Yeah, actually, sir, my company timing is from morning 9 o'clock to evening 6:30. Evening 6, sorry. So
Mhm.
after 6, I'll be free, sir.
Okay. For me, okay, because for me, I know I start around 10-11, but I really don't know when I end. So it's very difficult for me to commit on the evening hours, because you know I start I end around 10, 11, sometimes 12, 9, 10. I really don't have any end time because my meetings goes on and on and on till late night. So I really cannot commit anything on the evening hours. Morning hours, if you guys want a bit early as well, I should be fine. I should be there. Maybe sometimes, some days, if I'm too tired, maybe 7 may not work, but still I should be able to manage. But evening hours is really, really, really tough. Weekends, if you want, we could try something maybe with additional hours. But again, it's up to you. We can discuss further and we could just take on that particular call. But yeah, for me, evening hours on a weekday is really a no. I really cannot do it on a weekday on evenings.
Okay. All right. Any more questions, guys? We
Yeah,
can.
yeah. With regards to the process, just let me know any questions. If you want, we can again go in details in the next session as well. So like your understanding, or if you have some questions or anything that you would like to know, please feel free to reach out. uh, you know uh, I'll be able to address your questions, because it's important for you to get the clarity first before you start with it. You should know what you're getting into, what you're learning, how much confident you are. And it's you should be able to know the basic and the beginning of it, so that it would be easier for you when you carry on. So just any questions, just feel free. How small or how simple, just don't think every question is worth. Don't think, okay, this might be a stupid question, or this might not, simply I should not ask any questions. So it should be fine, because you should get a clarity if you have some open question for you.
Dinesh, I have one question. After the basics are dealt with in the training, so you say like after a month, let's say, so you'll be shedding some light on the real-time project experiences that an SD consultant face, like any scenarios or any
Yeah.
client requirements that you or anybody would have implemented in SD. So that will help
So
us in not just the
so we
interviews,
will
but
so we
also,
will
yeah.
also we'll also discuss about what happens in an implementation project. What are the kind of scenarios that you get in an implementation project, or what are the kind of phases that will go in an implementation project. Then we'll also discuss about the support project, how a support project needs to be handled, what are the kind of issues that we have. All that we will discuss, both in implementation and support. And we'll also discuss something about rollouts. Again, it's kind of a small implementations, but still, yeah, I will definitely explain, like, kind of the real-time scenarios and real issues that you will face. And maybe in order for you help with your interviews or something, you could also talk about them. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then how could I get the recording session, sir?
That I will take care of it. You don't have to worry. Post registration, everything will be explained about the server access, study materials, as well as